Good evening and welcome to the Gwladys Beat podcast. I'm with a regular, Nick, who's taken a seat back tonight, and we're with a new guest, Dave. So we'll welcome Dave on the show. And yeah, let's start. We're going to be discussing the upcoming Manchester City FA Cup quarter-final, and we'll be discussing Burnley and our European hopes, and let's have a chat and let's see where the world lies with Everton at the minute. So we'll start with you, Nick. Burnley 2-1. Where did you see the game? How did you see it?
Genuinely saw it as disappointing. I think again, it's been the sort of the connections for our season. We've got ourselves into positions and we have just bubbled it against teams that we would normally expect to win quite comfortably against Goodison Park. And I think each of those defeats that we've had have come about because we've started so slowly. We've come slow out the traps and slow into asserting ourselves into the game. And I think Burnley pushed hard, pressed hard early on, and I think stole the initiative. And I think for me, we were on the back foot from quite an early part of the game.
Dave, what did you make of the first half?
To be honest, I think Sean Dyche did what Carlo's done to a lot of teams this season, and he set up to play against us. He knew our game plan. He knew what he was going to do. And he's gone to stop us playing, and I think he has. They sort of beat us at our own game, I think, early on. I think they were putting the pressure on early. And you can see Alan lost the ball for one, didn't he? Because they were pushing us so high up like we've done to teams this season. And it's disappointing, and I know it's a bit cliche, and a lot of teams can say it, but if there's 40,000 Evertonians in there, we're on their backs, aren't we? We're on their backs and letting them know if we're in the first half an hour that it ain't good enough.
No, yeah, I totally agree with both points there. It's a disappointing result. I think you're right, Dave. I did that you can only hold your hands up first half. Burnley were really, really good. And, it's a sort of type of game that you've seen Ancelotti play against the bigger teams. But I think that's there where, we're banging on the door for top four. We're banging on the door for European places. We've really got to show our quality. And yes, they press well, but the goals, again, have come from mistakes. So this is where we've got to be good in possession, which I think we can all admit at Blues this season. That's one thing we've struggled on. We've really struggled on maintaining possession, playing through the thirds, and really hurting teams in that way. It's more been counter-attacking football. So we would expect to do that against Burnley, weren't we? And we couldn't really do it. It was a mistake from Davis for the first goal, although he did get a bit of a hospital pass. But as a centre midfielder, for me, he's got to deal with that ball. He's got to protect it, and he's got to play it off. He's got to keep the ball. I don't know what you thought, Nick. Was a Davis fault for the goal, or do we give him the benefits of the doubt? Maybe was it a foul, or was it a bit of a pass?
Yeah, if I'm honest with you, Carl, I mean, I think I've said on the show a few times, I guess I've watched football a bit longer, and for me, that was never a foul. I think Davis was just caught in possession. In the Premier League, I've seen them giving us fouls as soon as you lean into somebody's back. I think it was a mistake which Davis is a little bit prone to making. I'm not going to get too much on his back because I think he's really has worked all round to improve his game. I think Ancelotti made a comment in the papers about his willingness. He's younger, he'll learn. But within those comments, there's a veiled sort of perception of Ancelotti that he hadn't got that know-how. And that, for me, was an example of it. He got the ball in. You're right, it wasn't a great pass. But what he tried to do was sort of just protect the ball. And it was in the wrong position to take a risk to protect the ball. Then as soon as he lost it, they opened us up, didn't they? So, he has got to learn sometimes. He's not to try and hold the ball and turn and you sort of get his pockets picked, not at that part of the pitch. Don't know what you thought, Dave.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I think if you're looking at awards in the season like you do with kids and you're looking at a most improved player, I think past few months, maybe not the start of the season, but past few months, Tom Davies has come more into his own. But I think he's a player who's got to play to his strengths, really. I mean, Hollywood balls is never going to be Tom Davies' style. Tom Davies is in there with energy to try and be a nuisance, to try and win it back. And no disrespect to Tom, but giving the ball to players who are going to do more than him on the ball, players like your Richarlison's obviously and your Rodriguez. But I think he's made good improvements last few weeks, Davis. But yeah, probably not his best game the other night either. But I think you could say that for a few. I don't think Iwobi was great the other night when he came in with this big statement, didn't he? Like, play me in my best position. Well, unfortunately, I don't want to be too hard on the lad, but if that's his best position, then I think he's going to struggle for game time, isn't he, at Everton across his career?
I think that was try again, wasn't it? Have another lad, because that one wasn't certainly your best position. So pick another one.
I agree. Yeah. It's very clever from Carlo, I think, wasn't it? That I thought maybe he thought Burnley would have been a game where he could have afforded to give it a go, but he's not a number 10, is he? Unfortunately.
Second one, Cal. That was a mistake. Great finish, but
wasn't it? I mean, we move on to the second goal, and I just thought after that first goal, you could just see Burnley. They just lifted. They had so much more confidence, and it was that proper Everton thing to make such a bog standard team look like prime Barcelona. They were popping it off round the box, little ones, and it was coming. A second Burnley goal was coming, which, you know, for the team who's apparently going for the top four, it's not good enough. But unfortunately, Alan, he's committed himself, and you could see a lot of frustration in the Everton players going 1-0 down. I think they knew the task that was ahead to get back in the game, and he's dived in, and McNeil sent them all around. But what a finish! What a finish! Yeah. 9 out of 10 times, it's probably not going in, but it's a fantastic strike. So you can just hold your hands up there. Half the time you're probably happy for them to shoot outside the box. But just a fantastic goal. So we're 2-0 down, and we fight our way back in a bit surprisingly, should we say. I don't think we really created too much up until the goal. So Dave, what did you think of the goal? I thought it was quite well worked.
It was, great ball from Luca Dean. Tom Davies, wasn't it, for the
Dave?
Oh yeah, Dean put one in later on, didn't he, for Calvert-Lewin? Yeah, I thought he took it well, but like you said, Cal, we didn't create an awful lot, did we? And against teams like Burnley at home, you've got to be going out. And Burnley away, you can sort of come up and think, well, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a 4-4-2, and going to make it hard to play. But Burnley coming to Everton, you've got to create chances, haven't you? You really haven't. I know. Sorry, I got mixed up there. The one, Luca Dean put the ball for Calvert-Lewin, didn't he, in the second half, and probably should have scored. But apart from that, I can't think of too many chances that we had, and that's not good enough, I don't think, against a team like Burnley at home. And so we know what Burnley are, aren't they? They're not going to be a top four side. They're in there to push away from relegation, and
they're down there, aren't they? The relegation team. From it. We're not a relegation team, but they're a low half of the table team. They won't go down. They're not a relegation side, but bottom half team.
I think the annoyance for me, as both of you were saying, was that the goal was quite simplistically worked. Couple of passes, decent cross. Calvert-Lewin just walks between two defenders and heads it in. And apart from the one chance at the start of the second half, that was the last time we did it. We just didn't open them up. Why weren't we doing it? Why weren't we getting it out wide and doing that again and again and again? Because it clearly was going to work, but it wasn't. And I think that absence of creative ideas and nous, that's what cost us, really. We just weren't creative enough.
Well, yeah, I think it's a good point pointing out that Calvert-Lewin chance. I think we pointed out, didn't we, when we were watching the game, Nick, and it was a massive chance. It was one that the ball comes across Calvert-Lewin about 6 yards out. Yeah. We were already jumping up thinking it was a goal. It was it was a bad miss. There's no hiding from it. I'm sure Calvert-Lewin knows that himself, and I feel like that would have changed the game. If we go 2-2 after 6 minutes of the second half, there's an opportunity to go and win the game there. But yeah, it's interesting you pick up on the width. I felt like that was a problem, and I feel like it's been a problem at time. I don't know what you two think. I don't think we've got many out-and-out wingers. I think Richarlison, yes, is an out-and-out winger, but then is he at the same time? Because we sort of see his position maybe as a number 9, and I think that's what really was a hindrance. I think it works well, that diamond formation, so your 4 sort of diamond centre midfielders, if you've got 2 fullbacks bombing on. But for me, where we're lacking at the minute is we've got Holgate who's a centre-back, and he's only helping us out at right back, and he can't really go and affect the game forward. Luca Dean's superb at it. But then, because we're getting pushed back by teams like Burnley, Luca Dean can't go forward. So I don't know what you two both thought on the formation and whether Ancelotti got that right and maybe what needs changing.
I think, as Dave said at the outset, Ancelotti again is he's utilising opportunities to give players runs. I think he's still looking at what he's got. There's no doubt about it. You know, we have. Don't want to say over succeeded this season, but we've probably got way into people's highest expectations of where we are. And Ancelotti's still being clever. He's got a big summer ahead of him, and he's got to put a stamp on a team that's still predominantly a lot of Silvers players and people before him. So I think he is giving people chances, but in doing that, it's doing what you're saying, Cal, is that he's risking a Holgate and an Iwobi on one side, and it's not happening. And, you know, he's tried Coleman in midfield, and times we do get it right. There are times, and I never thought I'd hear myself saying this, I still wish we had Theo Walcott, who was just an out-and-out winger who just gives you a little bit something different, you know. A fit Yannick Bolasie would have done the same again, because if you'd had him there, the crosses would have streamed into the box of a higher quality. For me, I don't think Holgate reminded me of Tony Ibbott with his crossing. He just didn't get past the fullback any time. And I'm sorry to have a go at Tony Ibbott. God love him. He's been gone for ages. But, you know, all joking aside, it was that naivety. Him and Iwobi were trying to play through players or cross through players. So the balls weren't even getting where they meant to. So, yeah, I 100% agree, Cal. There's still little gaps that we quite haven't got the right players to fill.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've always been a team, like traditionally for history, haven't we? We get the ball out wide and you put it in the box to a centre forward, and as well as playing good football along the way, by the way. But we've got that now. We've got that centre forward, and we've got Calvert-Lewin, who's extremely good in the air. He's going to win headers. We've got some creative plays around. For me, Nick, I think that's a good point about Walcott. I think we're crying out for someone who is just a winger who's direct, runs at you and gets the ball in the box, and someone who, like a Stephen Pienaar, who brings the fullbacks into play as well. Like, I know down one side you've got Dean, who's an excellent fullback / wing back. Yeah. It's not going to happen with Holgate because he's centre half, and I think Holgate's a good centre half, but he's not going to be putting the ball in the sixpence for someone like Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison, is he? Because that's not what he's grown up as. No. I think I'm not sure. I'm not saying he's going to be an answer by any stretch, or we should go out and throw money at him. But that McNeil, he did what I think we'd like. I wouldn't have him as a star for Everton at all. But someone like him who's direct is going to go and have a go and beat a man and put a good ball in. I just think we're crying out for someone like that, and it would suit our system so much now. I think with having those wide players, and I think Ancelotti's got the diamond working fairly well. But I just think if we're going to play to our strengths, then we need some wide men who can put a good ball in. And I think there's people out there who can do that, isn't there? Just a case of, no doubt, Marcel Brands can find someone who can do that. Do you know what I mean? That's what he's there for, isn't it? But for me, that's what we need going forward. I think, and if we had that against Burnley, I think we could have been a different game, different scoreline.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dave. I think you make good points there, and I think it's where every Evertonian's seeing what brands need to be looking for in the summer. And I think, again, you're right, and it's not just Burnley, it's Fulham, it's Newcastle, where we need that sort of injection of flair, creativity, and balls in a box, which we just don't have. We don't have many wingers, and you make a really good point with Calvert-Lewin. We've got a sensational striker there who thrives off balls in the box, and if we're not putting them in like we weren't doing against Burnley, we're not really going to score, are we? So yeah, really good points there from both. So we move on, and Alex Iwobi. So one, what do we make of his comment about preferred position, and what do we make about his performance on Saturday? I don't know who wants to pick that one up first.
That one, innit? I mean, like a lot of us, you watch the game and you've got an eye on the Twitter universe and its comments, and I think it's been a little bit mixed. Some people felt that Iwobi had quite a good first 20 minutes. I wasn't quite sure I saw that. I think he's been brave enough, you know, if he's been quoted correctly and it's all true, to to say this is where my best position is. Personally, I didn't quite see it. I didn't quite see him in that role at all. The strongest games actually I've seen him have was when he was sort of playing that wing back, pushing on at the early half of the season. I thought he started to look really good in that position. But I probably have to, on that single performance, and it was one performance, but it was a performance against a team that we've identified as somebody we should be dominating, so he should have dominated the game. If he's that kind of player with that kind of value on his head, I didn't see it, Callum.
Dave?
I agree. I think, to be honest, in the first place, I think it's brave of him to come out and say it, really, isn't it? Like, he hasn't set up, he hasn't done anything amazing in his Everton career so far, has he? And to sort of come out and say that, I think brave and a bit disrespectful to Carlo, to be honest, to come out and say something like that over social media. I think, I'm not sure. I thought Carlo handled that really well in the press conference, sort of playing it down. But I'd be quite angry, I think, if someone came out and said that he wasn't a first teamer. I agree with you totally there, Nick, what you said about playing the left backs more left wing back, against Fulham Palace, I think it was earlier on the season. I thought he was against Palace, I think, in particular. I think a lot of good things came down his side of the pitch, and I think it was due to, in some parts, because of him. But I think to go into a football club where you're not nailed on every week and getting his first year of game time, to go in and say, I should be playing my best position, I think he's going to limit his game time, really, if he's going to come in and say that. It did anger me a bit, that, I think. I did see it. I don't know about you two, but I thought that was a bit disrespectful towards Carlo, considering what Carlo's done in his career.
Yeah. I think it's one for going into his office and saying, not putting on social media because you've had a call up by Nigeria, like, is it? But sort of in Iwobi's defence, and maybe a bit stray from your 2 points, is I actually didn't think he did as bad as what people made out on Saturday. I thought he made a nice run for the goal, a nice little bit of playing the ball through to Tom Davies in between two defenders. But then I can see both sides. Apart from that, did he do too much? No. And again, if he feels like number 10's his position, you've made a good point, Dave, it will limit his game time because he's up against one of the world's best when he's fit in James Rodriguez, and a clear man's favourite. And I think in that respect, that's why Alex Iwobi's just got to look at and maybe take a few parts of his game. He's never going to have his touch or his technical ability, but I feel like Iwobi sort of had a free number 10 role in terms of that. He was able to move right across. He could pick up spaces on the right and the left. He wasn't just stuck central. And he just wasn't as busy as what a number 10 was for me. When we've got James there, James is picking up little pockets all the time, 1-2s, and just moving the ball nice and quick for us, where, I can't remember many times Iwobi even touched the ball. Yeah. And never mind keeping the game ticking over. So, yeah, in some respects, I thought he did okay. And then in some others, he wasn't as busy. I think, for me, at Everton, I feel like he's had his best games when James has been in the team. And Iwobi's sort of been right of a 3 behind a striker, and maybe sort of like an inside right, maybe Wolves away, rings a bell, where he scored a good goal, got past his fullback a few times and had a good game there. But yeah, I totally agree. I think it's one, he should have been knocking on the door of Carlo and not putting on social media. That is a bit disrespectful. And I think you're both right. Is he in your starting 11 if you could pick out of a fit Everton squad? Probably not. So he may need to focus on that before he's focusing on his preferred position. But hey ho. So just to round off with Burnley, where do we think that leaves us then in terms of European prospects for the end of the year? Where should we be aiming? What competition? And an early call, but where do you think we may finish, Nick?
Thanks for that. I think this season has been an absolute minefield, hasn't it, of strange results, unpredictable results. And I still think, based on that, there's still a number of options for me. I still think we're going to see a few more shock results, and I still think we're going to see some strange results. you've got to tend to think now that both the Manchester clubs are probably beyond getting caught. I have to say I expected Leicester, once they lost Harvey Barnes, to maybe slip away a little bit, particularly if Vardy didn't get back in the swing after his hernia up. But to be fair, they are still picking points up. And Chelsea have got themselves on a very nice little run now, haven't they? Completely unbeaten in 12, I think, now. And you sort of say that potentially is your top four for me, and it's going to be quite hard at times. As I say, I hoped we could have caught Leicester, and I thought Chelsea may bubble it, and they haven't done. You've then got to look at Tottenham are picking a bit of form up. Liverpool got a result at Wolves. I wouldn't say it was convincing, but sometimes it only takes a little porky result to kickstart things. So I think unfortunately now it's probably Europa League is where we've got to be aiming for, that 7th spot. I think, Arsenal is a strange one because they're starting to pick results up, as they proved, and beat Tottenham, but people will take points off each other. We just have to focus on getting results ourselves. West Ham are another one, I think, are the ones I'd have my eye on. Moyes has got them tough and resilient. They don't give goals away, a bit like the year we qualified for Europe when we were winning every game 1-0. He's got them in a similar vein, but they've got a few hard games coming up, a couple of defeats, a couple of bits, and so there's a real mix, I think, that we can get into for the European places, and I'd still be disappointed if we didn't get a European place, but it's going to be quite hard now, I think.
Dave?
Yeah, I agree with Nick. I think Saturday night it was your classic beat Villa and we go top, isn't it? That Friday night a couple of seasons ago, and it felt like that with Chelsea dropping points, and I know Leeds away is a tough place to go, but they drop points, and you think that could be away. And West Ham playing Man U on the Sunday, that'll be half them to get points. It is a strange league though as well. It's a very, very strange league to see. Like you say, Leicester, Nick, as well. And Iniacho, he's since there's been injuries, he's been on fire, hasn't he? He got a great hat-trick the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think it's over, in my opinion. I don't know if this is being me optimistic, but Chelsea's last 4 games, I was doing it reading today. They've got Villa away. I could be wrong here, and they'll probably get someone correct them. But Villa away, they've got to play Leicester, City, and I think it's Arsenal in their last 4 games. And I know they look very good against us. I think they were one of the best sides who played all season under Tuchel, not necessarily under Lampard, under Thomas Tuchel. I don't think it's over, and I think that's purely because of the way the league is this season. I mean, the way I hear a lot of people saying it's just Everton, isn't it? It'd be just Everton for us to get beat on Saturday and then go and beat City 1-0 on Saturday in the cup, wouldn't it? I think if we don't get any sort of Europe, it's extremely disappointing. Considering the season we've had, considering we were top for a while, and we had a couple of dodgy results against Southampton and Newcastle. To not get anything, we're disappointing. But I think our away form it's crazy, isn't it? Our away from home, we're just doing so well. I think that works in our favour a lot. If the Corey can get fit again, I'm not sure how long he's out for. If the Corey and Allen are in the middle, I'm not sure how many games they've played with each other this season. To be honest, it can't be a lot. I don't think it's over. I think we can go and do something still. I really do. I fancy us in big games more than what I used to after this season. I think Chelsea, like I said, they were just a class above us. I think, to be honest, I think we played well for the first half an hour as well. But I think if we can get some points off the big teams, and it's a big if with Everton, but beat who we should, I really don't think it's over. I think we can still push. But I don't know if that's me being optimistic, but I fancy us to do something. I do.
Yeah, it feels terrible, I think, after 2 straight defeats and 1 being barely at home. But, you've only got to look at the league table. I think, what were we, 4 points behind Chelsea, 5 points behind Chelsea with a game in hand. So that goes down to 2. So realistically, you've got to look at the table. It's not over. Champions League isn't over. For me, realistically, I think, any European football this season is such an improvement, and it's fantastic, and I would love either place, but I think it's going to be difficult. I really do. I think I just worry about where the next result's coming from. You know, if we go and beat Palace, brilliant, and it's a really good game to get ourselves back into it. But yeah, I think Nick, I think you make a good point. I don't think that top four is going to budge now. I think for us, I don't think Leicester are catchable. I think they're about 10 ahead now. We do have one game in hand, I think. But again, it's consistency, which we haven't shown apart from away from home. And how long can that continue? Long may it should. But I think we've really got to sort our home form out. But I tend to agree with Dave. I think Ancelotti's been saying in the press conferences, I think we're going to be there till the last day of the season. Whether come the last day of the season, that is, we're still there for the Europa League or we're still there for the Champions League. It could be either. We're not out of either, you know, but let's just really hope that we can go and get one. I think, as you say, and I agree with Dave, it's mightily disappointing after the start of the season we had, which was superb. And we've been pretty, you know, consistently up there for the whole year and in the top 7. If we were to drop out and lose that, I think it would be terrible. It really would. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with Dave. Let's be optimistic and
absolutely
see where we are at the season. So
we move on. Last game. We got a nice easy game. If we need a point, we've got a really easy game anyway. Last game of the season, haven't we?
Manchester City away.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that fan's back in, Nick. Then, so it'll be all right. Well, hopefully.
So we move on to Manchester City this Saturday, and it's a massive game, isn't it? You know, I don't need to build it up. No one needs to build it up, but I think we're all desperate to see Everton win something. You know, I'm getting wrinkles, and I've not seen them win anything. That's how long it's been up. So, Nick, we have Manchester City at home, no crowd in the FA Cup quarter-final. They're probably one of the best teams this country has seen in many years. How do you see the game going? Where can it be won for Everton and where can it be lost?
I think sort of Dave touched on it. It's that the Everton way, and my biggest hope is on that, in as far as Everton just pull these results out of nowhere. Because if you put your logical side of your brain onto this, you can't see us doing much, can you? I mean, I think I said to you last night, I think as City were coming out, oh, look, they're resting a few players. And you went, well, that's about as good as it gets. And then the telly was saying, oh, they've rested 5. And you think, yeah, they've rested Sterling. Their squad is immense. So it's not as if, you know, you get teams in the cup and you go, well, they might put a bit of a second string out. Man City's second string is probably better than most of our players. That's the worry when you think what they're going to bring in. But like anything, it's me. Everton have got to make it a cup tie, if that doesn't sound too silly to say. I think it's not a game where I'd go out normally. I think we when we lost at home to them 3-1, we tried our tactic in that particular way. I'd be minded to try and get a team that sort of really goes out at them quite early on, and let's see if we can sort of shake them up a little bit, because no crowd will make a big difference. No crowd will allow City to relax and stroke the ball around like they were doing last night against Gladbach and really having no worries. So a real thrust, momentum, you know, get into them, for want of a better phrase. And I know that sounds very old manish. That would be my approach. Whether we can do it depends on what team we can get out, I think.
Dave, where do you think the game can be won then for the Blues? Maybe what formation would you play?
Oh, well, it's I like I touched on before. I think so many times this season, one's a standout. Obviously, Liverpool game, Man United away, Chelsea at home, even Chelsea away to an extent. I know we didn't win, but Carlo's really done something which I don't think a lot of Everton managers have done over the years, and they've settled to play against them rather than we've had managers like Martinez and Silva and Allardyce who've been so stuck in the way of their, obviously in the case of Martinez and Silva, your nice football, and Allardyce the not very nice football to be nice to Sam. He's gone out and set us up so we could get something from it, hasn't he? He's tried to match the team and play really clever. But I think, like you both say, how far can you match a team like Manchester City? I mean, the quality. I remember it was I think we were all there. We went to Man City when Stecklenburg saved the penalties.
Yeah.
I think we got a point that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember we were having a pint in the gantry before the game, looking and the team from the screen. I think it was like Gundogan, Jesus, who's someone like maybe Zabaleta on the bench. You think, that's a good team, that. And then you look and see it was the substitutes bench, and you think, well, what chance have you got? I think probably the time we had someone like, I don't know, maybe Apostolos Velias to come off the bench, and they've got Ilkay Gundogan. They've got so much strength, can't they? They could really bring a team on Saturday, the second 11, and it's still going to be a tough game. I think the best. I think I'd love to Carlo and go and do what he's done, and try and set up to contain him. But then on the other hand, how far can you contain a team like Manchester City? It's whether you do that or you just say, go for it. But it's so hard because they're so good, aren't they? I think they're better than Liverpool were last season, in my opinion. I don't think I'm being bitter there, but I think they're just unplayable, aren't they? I think Gundogan's come into form, hasn't he? De Bruyne has come back and he looks class. Phil Foden, what a player he is. Yeah. It's if we're going to win, it's going to be a scrappy one, isn't it? But we've had some great scrappy ones over the years as well, haven't we? Which have been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many ways where you can go, this is how we're going to beat Man City, because if you're a team like Everton, and we've touched upon it already, you've only got to look at the two teams. One, we need City to have an off day. I think two, we touched on the bench and Man City's strength and depth. Manchester City's first 11 and second 11 would be the top two of this season. So put the best 11 on the pitch, then put the second best 11 on the pitch, they'd be the top two this season. That's what we're up against. I think we maybe just need to learn a little bit from the last home game that we played. I think we got moved about a little bit too much in the middle of the pitch, which let them have opportunities to shoot, pick up pockets of space that could hurt us. You know, the third goal came from a central area. We let Mahrez cut inside. So I think we've got to learn from that. So I would really defend narrow, and I'd expect Everton to defend narrow. I think we're going to play a 4-4-1-1. Carlo sort of likes that. I think he can defend narrow. He can press wide when the ball goes wide with the wingers and keep his bank of three, because he'll drop his number 10 in. And I see that's the best way for us to go. But yeah, it's easier said than done. You know, you've got the obvious one, stop Mahrez from cutting in. But how do you stop a player who does it so fast? We all know Mahrez is going to cut in, but he does it that fast. It's unstoppable. Yeah. So yeah, it's a hard one. But for me, I play 4-4-1-1. I think James is out, isn't he?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
If there's any way you can play, that would be brilliant. And I'd like us to go and play similar to the Liverpool away game. And I felt like we played without much fear. And as much as Liverpool aren't as good as Man City this year, they're still a cracking side, albeit the defence is a bit ropey. And for us, it's a massive hoodoo in it to go and win there when we did. So I feel like if we can get at them a little bit early, attack within the first 20 minutes, not just sit back and play for 20 minutes, we need to go and score the first goal. First goal is massive. If we get the first goal, we've then got someone to defend and we can work hard. But yeah, for me, that's what I'd like to see. Changes wise to the scene, Nick. What are we looking at?
I mean, I think I've not been his biggest fan. I'm not sure Gomez offers enough work rate at the moment. So I'd certainly be keeping Davis and Allen in there. I'd probably be putting Sigurdsson back in there as well, I think, just to give it a little bit more. If there's no James, you need a Sigurdsson, because, again, criticise him for maybe his total work package, but he has in his locker a shot from 50 yards, a free kick, a cutting pass, and that is it. You know, we've commented about City at the start of the season that if there's anything, if you do get at them, the defence is probably the less stronger part. Now, he's done really well bringing that new centre back in, who's made a fantastic difference to him, hasn't it? Is it Diaz?
Yeah, he's a quality player.
He's been like the Van Dijk for Liverpool. I was who sorted them out. So there isn't that much. But I still think we can get in and get behind a bit of space. And for me, that's what I'd be looking to do. So my changes would be that way. I agree with you. I'm not sure I'd be going Holgate again at fullback. If Coleman's fit, I'd probably play Coleman, just as a bit more of a safer head in that position. But certainly, I'd be looking to bring sort of a workman-like midfield in to play.
Dave?
I'm not sure. I'm only going off ways we've played this season. I'm not sure if I will go Holgate in there, but I'd have possibly. I know it's very defensive, but I think we've got to sort of get what we can take. Possibly similar to Liverpool, having Coleman just ahead of him. I know that's extremely, extremely defensive, but I don't know if doubling up on players like your Mahrez's and your Fodens is possibly the way to go. I agree with Nick saying I think we need the workman-like midfield, and that's essential because as good a players as Gundogan and De Bruyne are, and the old style, you'd like to see him get a kick first 5 minutes, possibly to let him know you're there, stop him from playing. If Rodriguez in there, it'd be great because I think him and Richarlison, the two players we've got on me where you can just give it to him, and say, "Go on, just do something with it, just make something happen." But I think I will possibly go with the defensive lineup with the workman-like midfield that Nick says. But it's and then the flip side of that though is if you go 1-0 behind, then it's going to be hard to score. And that is a Liverpool, like you said before, Cal. That is a Liverpool game. That is, you get the early goal and you try and get what you can from the rest of it and get something out of it at the other end later on in the game. It's hard. Like you both say, City. There's no game plan you can go in and say, well, this is how we're going to beat them, because not many teams do they? Do you know what I mean? That's how possibly I'd approach it.
I feel like that's what Ancelotti will do. I feel like he'll play Holgate. Is Yerry Mina going to be fit? I don't know. He'll probably play Keane, Godfrey and Luca Dean. If Mina's fit, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays the back four of centre-backs and pushes Luca Dean on the left-hand side. Richarlison on the other side. If he's not, I feel like it'll be Keane, Godfrey, Holgate, Luca Dean. Iwobi one side, Richarlison the other, and then you obviously Sigurdsson, Davis, Allen, and Calvert-Lewin. I feel like that's what he'll do. I think he'll definitely leave Holgate in there, and I think you picked up on a good point, Dave. Holgate won't be expected to go forward like he was and create against Burnley. He's going to be there for his defensive duties, so I can see why he was placing the team. But yeah, it's a hard one. We could be here all night, half hoping we can somehow come up with the master plan to beat Manchester City and make it back to Wembley, but we can but see on Saturday. So does anyone want to finish on a score prediction?
I'm if Carlo has a little listen and picks up a few of our ideas and we grind City all the way down, we'll take them 4-3 on penalties.
Dave,
that'd be great. I'd love a Goodison 1-0 in front of the Gwladys Street. We haven't scored in the Gwladys Street for so long. I read this week. I think it's been a while since we've scored in front of it. Calvert-Lewin header in front of the Gwladys Street would do me 1-0.
Yeah, I'm feeling 1-0. Little coffee cup moments in the second half. Calvert-Lewin header. Even Duncan come on at the back post on the side. All in the back of the net. Don't concede and let's get back to Wembley. So we'll wrap there. Thank you very much for watching. Any comments, as always, leave them in. If you think we've talked rubbish, if you like what we've said, give us a comment. Let us know how it's gone, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully, we'll be in the FA Cup semi-finals. See you soon.